All right, everyone. Good morning. We've reached a brand new week and we're talking about Celtic again. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
Things are great. Yeah, really, really good at the moment. Just delighted with the way things are going. Someone in the comments is saying what a time it is to be a Celtic fan. What a time it is to cover Celtic as well. Tremendous time. Great result of the weekend. Looking forward to a massive game on Wednesday against Pittodrie. Tony was a wee bit more reserved than I
Pittodrie.
was on Pittodrie. What
You
did I
said
say?
against Pittodrie. I would,
Against.
I would, I'd have to, Ryan. I have to pick up on that. Otherwise, one of them in the comments will do it. So I'm
That's fair.
just
You
keep
know,
me
I
in
had all
line.
my spiel. I had my spiel all sorted in my head, and then you get mixed up with basic English. It's a Monday morning. You can definitely tell. Yeah, going to Aberdeen against Pittodrie. Tony was a wee bit more reserved than I was on Saturday. I'm not even reserved at all after yesterday's result for Aberdeen. I think Celtic can
Yeah.
put one hand on the title with a win against Aberdeen.
Oh,
I'm going with my hot takes on a Monday morning, but yeah, if they can get a win at Pittodrie, they put themselves in a tremendous position for the rest of the season. You're looking at that game as almost as if it's like a mirror image of that Man City Liverpool game yesterday, where a win takes you so far ahead of your rivals for this season. Yeah, that's got to be the aim. 3 points, and then they can forward plan a bit.
have you just compared Aberdeen to Man City? Can I just double check?
No, just in terms of optics for the two, just not in terms of squad depth or any squad or anything to do with that. Just the way that this season is going, I think that Celtic have a real chance to put real daylight between themselves and Aberdeen, especially with the fact that they'll have a game in hand, even if they were to win that
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
That's a
Seven,
massive
seven clear with a
opportunity.
game in hand. I mean, that if we win on Wednesday night, that'll be a hell of a position to be in. Given that 3 weeks ago, maybe slightly longer, but when Aberdeen were matching us every way. If we suddenly go 7 points clear, with a game in hand, be a hell of a position. Morning, everyone. How are you all? Natalie, Pete, just picking out random names. Henrik McClarson. Imagine that was his real name. Can't believe I'm starting to feel sorry for Man City. Wouldn't go that far, to be honest. Complete tangent here, but is he Aston Villa struggling a bit at the moment?
They really
Is that
are. Yeah,
suddenly looking like not a bad game for us, or is that a bit too far?
The thing is, they'll have such a hectic Christmas schedule to either sort it out or even go further down in this spiral that they're
Yeah.
on at the moment under Unai Emery. The thing is, he's got so much control at Aston Villa in terms of the sporting director, all his staff, all the players, that I think they'll get out of that rut. But at the moment, I looked at their record recently. Not a lot of talk about that, probably because Man City have been so bad
Mm.
that they've kind of taken all the headlines. But a really, really bad run of form. Still a great team, still get really good individuals. It'll be a tough game at Villa Park, but hopefully Celtic have qualified by then and they can go into that game not without pressure, but knowing that their fate is sealed in a good way.
Yes. Right, okay, a bit of work to be done before then. Right, we're going to go into the chat before then. We still have this running. And I know I told you this on Friday and Thursday, everyone, but this is a ridiculous offer. And I say that as someone who doesn't even write, can barely write. But I'm not like Ryan and Tony and the rest of the squad, because they certainly can. 1 year of the Celtic Way access, content, subscription, whatever you want to say, for just £12. 1 year for £12. And on top of that, you get a free made by Frankie Brendan Rodgers print as well. If you want a wee closer look up at that, that's it there. Cracking. Imagine that up in your bedroom wall. Or where does Brendan Rodgers have his own portrait in his house? Can we remember? Where is that,
I
in the
believe it's
living
in
room
his
or
living
something?
room. Yeah, it's above the mantelpiece. Was that confirmed that actually he did have
Yeah.
a
We've
self-portrait
seen the
of himself?
footage. I'm sure it was in maybe the Liverpool documentary, the behind the scenes one. I'm sure it went to his house and he had that. But that could be you with something like that. Certainly a year's access of the Celtic Way could be yours. And as I say, £12 for the effort that Ryan and Tony and the rest of the squad put in with their analysis, news, interviews, reactions in written form. I would say that's a pretty good deal. As I say, £12 for a year. Anything to add quickly, Ryan?
Just a wee quick shout out to say that the subscribers are what keep the Celtic Way going. As much as we enjoy doing these YouTube videos, and we absolutely love doing them, the subscribers are the main sort of focus. They help us continue to do what we do and continue to be able to be funded by what we do and what we're doing. So if you subscribe to us or pledge to use that, £12 will be well worth your money in terms of unmatched journalistic content from Tony, myself, a few other people as well. You get Stuart and Alan, and a few more people to come as well. So, but you'll also get that made by Frankie Brendan print. And people spoke about how good the Kyogo print was last time when we did our last offer. It's similar. It's similar in terms of the quality as well, or it would just be the same in terms of quality. A really good print made by Frankie. You know that quality is going to be there. So £12 for a year of Celtic-minded journalism by Celtic-minded people. If you want to support us, that ends tomorrow night. So you'll need to be quick to get your hands on the limited edition made by Frankie Brendan print. So thank you to everybody that's done so far. To those that haven't, if you could, then it would be much appreciated. And yeah, thank you to everybody that's done so far.
And you'll be richly rewarded with a year's worth of great stuff from the whole team at the Celtic Way. And the team that is growing at all times, Ryan, as well. Right, okay. What's Mr. Celtic saying? I feel excuses are made for not giving youth a chance. The weekend was perfect game for it. How Cummins is flying in the youth, can't get 20 or 30 minutes. I've seen a few people commenting on this. I guess, I mean, the pretty simple thing to say would be that we have such a strong squad at the moment that we can basically we can't start all our players. So guys like Paulo Bernardo and Adam Idah and James Forrest are struggling to start games. So I guess the various sub opportunities that we have are going to them rather than B team players. I guess it's one of the negatives, if you want to say, of having such a strong squad, is that unless these young players are unbelievable, they're probably not going to get a chance. Is that fair comment, Ryan?
I think it's very fair. The league's not anywhere near being close to being finished yet. I wouldn't want Celtic risking young players coming in, especially
I thought you were calling it on Wednesday if we win.
It's not Wednesday yet. As much as I want to see Daniel Cummins, I think he's quite fine where he is at the moment. I want to see him extend that, keep on going throughout the season, maybe get his chance towards the end of the season. I'd much rather use that game time for the likes of Adam Idah, like what happened at the weekend. He's a guy that's clearly flying at the moment, that rotation from Kyogo to Adam Idah. Tony and I were speaking about it after the game. That was our favourite goal out of the 5, Adam Idah's goal. Although Callum McGregor's was an absolute screamer, and we've seen him score about 4 or 5 of those screamers this season so far. He's having a bit of a goal of the season compilation with himself, or competition with himself. It'll be some compilation at the end of the season when you see all the goals that he's scored. But Adam Idah's was just a man in confidence, and that quality really did shine through. It's not really a goal that we've seen so much from Adam Idah, because a lot of them have been tap-ins, good movement. I was saying it after the game as well. It was Edward-esque the way that he cut in, beat his man, and then curled it in from the. It was one of those goals that Edward was scoring for Rodgers and Lennon, in those couple of seasons. You know, when he was really, really on form. But yeah, I was delighted with him. So I'd much rather the game time goes to them, goes to players that are still making it through. You know, you still get Luke McCowan, who had such a great performance on Saturday. He needs that game time. So I'm quite fine with this rotation that's happening at the moment between the starters and the subs. Although that seems a bit disingenuous to those players that are coming off the bench, because they could quite easily be starting games, and the players that are starting could be on the bench for some. You know, it's just that way. It's the strength and depth. Maybe later on in the season you want to see some of the youngsters, but right now I just want Celtic to play their strongest team. Daniel Cummins will get his chance if he continues to play the way that he's playing, especially in the Youth Champions League. All he needs to do is just keep on going, and he'll get that opportunity. Brendan Rodgers says if he's good enough, he'll get his opportunity. So, yeah. He's just got to keep that going.
Yeah, that point just made there by Evo Genius saying if Brendan Rodgers thinks a youth player merits a game, they'll get the chance. And Rodgers said that. And to be honest, Rodgers had, certainly in his first spell at the club, he had a number of players that he gave opportunities to. The obvious one in my mind is Calvin Miller. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Miller, who he played a bit. Mikey Johnson. Mikey Johnson was the guy. Brendan Rodgers was the guy that gave Mikey Johnson his breakthrough, and Johnson went on to play for us for a number of years. Anthony Ralston got his breakthrough through Brendan Rodgers. So he does give opportunities to young players. Yes, good point. Well, certainly
more Ewan than Liam. Liam was already breaking through under Dyler.
Yeah, in fact, I think Liam Henderson was maybe Neil Lennon made his debut. I remember a game at Kilmarnock that he made his debut, but he certainly gives opportunities. And Bethany saying, "How do you know they aren't good enough if you don't give them a chance?" And I mean that's definitely part of it. I think just the bottom line here is that the chances of Brendan Rodgers giving players at this point, giving player like Daniel Cummins, for example, an opportunity ahead of Adam Idah or Kyogo off the bench on Saturday is probably pretty little. Like we've got such a strong squad at the moment. It's just as well we've got 5 subs now, because if we had 3 subs, you'd be really hard pressed to give all these guys game time. Basically, what I'm saying is, in an ideal world, I think we'll have someone really good breaking through who gets the opportunity, and I think they will be given an opportunity by Brendan Rodgers. I'm just not sure there's anyone right now that's absolutely ready for that opportunity. I fully take the point of guys like Kieran Tierney, who you didn't necessarily think were ready, and then you put them in and suddenly you find out they're a lot better than maybe you thought they'd be. James Forrest, another example of that, maybe. But I just think the squad is so strong at the moment that you're giving opportunities to guys like guys like Yang, for example, can barely get a sniff, and he's been seeing more and more action recently. Steve saying he'd like to see Cummins get a sub appearance towards the end of the season, but need to trust Brendan Rodgers and the coaching staff. They have earned their trust. But thanks for the comments on that. Great atmosphere on Saturday, my ball saying.
It was a good atmosphere, but I think that helped. It went hand in hand by the way the Celtic were playing. I think I knew within 2-3 minutes that it could have been a long afternoon, that it was going to be a long afternoon for Ross County. And you can kind of tell with the way that Celtic play, when they click like that, when the interplay between the midfielders and the forward players, plus the defenders as well. You know, you've got to mention Scales playing as a playmaker, a deep line playmaker for Celtic for that second goal, as well as scoring the first goal with a header. He was absolutely sublime on Saturday. But you knew very early on that Celtic were on it, that there was no sign of a European hangover whatsoever. The players that were in the team, you could tell, were desperate to make a point to the manager that we should be in the starting lineup more often. I look at McCowan, I look at Bernardo. Those two in particular really did stand out on Saturday. And I think the two of them actually play really well together, because they've came off the bench at the same time in some games, and they've really added to that tempo, or maintained the tempo that those coming off had in the game. And in some ways, they've even exceeded it in terms of like Engels coming off, or Hatate. Then you've got Bernardo and McCowan coming on, who in any other era I think would be starting week in, week out for Celtic. It's just that they've got such an embarrassment of riches in the middle of the park that they can't start every game. For me now, I think Paulo Bernardo's a starter in this Celtic team. He showed enough on Saturday, the way that he was going about the pitch, just sort of being quietly authoritative in that middle of the park role. And McCowan has made the best sort of point in terms of, I should be playing more games for Celtic. Look at what he does. Everything that he does on the ball is positive. I wrote about that on Saturday. Every touch that he makes is a positive one. It's going forward. It's looking for something positive to happen. He gets that freedom. Him and McGregor were playing really well, and Bernardo too. That midfield three looked really, really solid and fluid on Saturday. So Rodgers has got a couple of massive decisions to make for Wednesday, but they're not difficult decisions or tough decisions. They're just good ones. They're only tough in a good way, not in a bad way, because he's got so much options, or so many options to choose from.
I think that's the thing for me. Like, Brendan Rodgers made 6 changes to the team on Saturday, right? And like in years gone past, you make 6 changes to your team, you're almost turning up at Celtic Park. You see that team and you're almost accepting, right, we're not going to be at the level of maybe if it was, quote, the full team out, or the starting team. And I'm well aware that we don't have a starting team as such. Brendan Rodgers said on Saturday that, everyone's a starter. But the point I'm making is, in previous years, you would be weakening your team when you take out. So who dropped out on Saturday? So you had Greg Taylor, you had Trusty, Hatate, Engels, Kuhn, and Kyogo. I mean, Kuhn and Kyogo are arguably your two best players, and they're dropped out of the team. And the performance, I think, on Saturday, and I don't know if you'll agree or not, I think the performance on Saturday was better than it would have been had those 6 players been in the team. Like, I think freshening it up allowed that performance to be better because you had guys like Bernardo and McCowan and Scales, and to be honest, I'm naming them all, Forrest and Valle and Idah, and all of those guys were absolutely choking to get back on the pitch and really show why they should be in the starting lineup for the Champions League games. 4 of them scored. 4 of the 6 players who came in scored, which is no coincidence for me. That just shows that the hunger that people have those players have to perform. So it's a great place we're in squad-wise. On the midfield, I thought the midfield was excellent on Saturday. I would start with the same midfield at Pittodrie. I think I'm pretty confident Bernardo will start. I've got a feeling Bernardo will start, I think, after his performance. And just the fact he's not really started many of our bigger games in recent months, I think he'll start the game. I'm less sure if McCowan will start. I think he might go with Hatate in that midfield, but I would personally start McCowan. I think McCowan has exceeded all expectations. I thought it was a clever signing when we made it, but he's much better than I thought he would be. He's having much more of an impact than I thought he'd be. I genuinely thought he would be probably like a player who came off the bench in the main, which he has done. But he's like, when he starts games, and I think he started 3 games now, he plays well. Like, he scored at Motherwell, scored on Saturday there. Like, he's a really top player, Luke McCowan, and I think he's a player that's going to be at Celtic for years to come and become a pretty important part of the team, a bit like someone like Greg Taylor has. I think he's earned it. I think Bernardo and McGregor have earned it to start together. I know it's a tougher game at Pittodrie, but I think there's real energy in that midfield. Aberdeen are pretty energetic, and I just think they're well suited to the game. But we'll wait and see what the manager says.
Yeah, it's just a great position for Brendan Rodgers to be in at the moment with that midfield. You were talking about the 6 changes that Celtic made, but those 5 players that remained in the team are all first teamers as well. So you still, even though you've made those changes, the players that remain in the side are all, they're all leaders in their own way, and they'll help those players that are coming into the team. Look at Carter Vickers. I thought that was great man management from Brendan Rodgers, keeping him in the side. Don't make him think that he's you're just going to drop him out and put Trusty in alongside Scales. I'm glad that he played the 90 and he stayed on for the full game. Had a couple of opportunities actually in the game that I think he maybe should have done better with, but he was really solid throughout alongside Scales. That's the thing. Even though you've split up that Trusty and Carter Vickers partnership, there's already that pre-existing partnership between Carter Vickers and Scales. So you can just go back to that. These players know how to play with each other. There's options all over the pitch. Idah coming in, making a really good impression. Daisy Idah, even though he played 45 minutes, I thought he pulled up in the first 2 minutes of the game because he looked as if he was holding his hamstring. I don't know, maybe the injury must have not caught up with him or something because he was going 2 minutes later. I was like, this guy's miraculous healing almost, because it looked as if he was done and then he just ran it off. I was like, it's incredible for a player like him to keep on going. One of the first names on the team sheet for Wednesday, as you would expect. But those players that came in, all, you said 4 out of the 6 players scored on the day, which is, and it probably should have been more than that because Valle had a couple of big chances as well, particularly in the second half, that he was really, I think he was quite annoyed with himself that he didn't score that, but I thought that was a real sort of one of those breakout performances from Valle. Not everything was perfect from him, but at the same time, he shows enough, and he's so positive on the ball, and he's athletic, and he goes from box to box very, very quickly. That he's provided Rodgers with a bit of a selection dilemma at left back position. For me, I don't know about you, Hamish, but I think he starts on Wednesday. I think he's such an important outball for Celtic, and he breaks the lines so well with running from back to front, from defence to attack. I think there's some real selection quandaries for Rodgers, and none of them are bad at the moment. They're all good. They're all, are you going to pick this good player or another good player in the team? It's not as if you're going to downgrade whatever player you put in this team. seems to be able to step up to whatever's asked of them.
Yeah. Hazel says she really likes Valle, reminds her of Kieran Tierney, which
Me
I think
too.
is
I said that the
something
first time I seen him.
you've said. Azagiri is who I went for. I find Valle an interesting one from Saturday. Now, big disclaimer right away. I've actually only seen the first half. Any Celtic TV viewers out there, maybe if you're around the world and watch the games on Celtic TV but not live, will know that Celtic only uploaded the first half of yesterday's game. I think they've since uploaded the second half, but about a day after the game finished. Thankfully, all the goals came in the first half, and Ahira didn't miss too much, Ryan, apart from maybe a few chances. But I thought Valle was a little bit careless early on in the game. Like from the bits I was watching, there was a few times the ball went to him and he passed it gave it away, or I think there was one time he passed out the park, didn't he? When he thought Maida was going close and Maida went long, and there was a bit of miscommunication. So was he particularly good in the second half, or did you just think generally he had a good game?
Like, I mean, that's the point that I was saying. I know he wasn't perfect, and I know that he gave the ball away, but he offers something different in that left back role. Now, you're going to get steadiness from Greg Taylor. You're going to get that 7, 8 out of 10 most weeks. Maybe sometimes he drops lower than that, particularly in Europe against tougher opposition. But on the whole, you'll get a 7 out of 10 from Greg Taylor most weeks. There's a wee bit of more risk involved with Valle, but it's one of those risk and reward situations with him, in my opinion, because I think what he brings attacking wise almost makes up for the fact he's a little bit more careless on the ball. For me, he was trying things. Now, I think he might have the same sort of thing as Hatate, that he tries difficult passes and they don't always come off. But I just think his range of passing and his movement on the eye, maybe the stats will tell you otherwise, but this is why I like to look at games in a 50-50 lens. You've got half of the game on stats, another half in that eye test. He passes the eye test on every single time that I watch him. He looks athletic. And you've got to remember as well, he's only 20 years old. He's just coming through. He's just making his mark. I really like what he brings to the team. I like the positivity that he brings going forward. I'm just hoping that Celtic can keep a hold of him. I know that'll be unlikely, given the way that his trajectory is going. The good thing is that player, I think it was Valle, for Barcelona, looks to be okay. So there isn't a long-term issue about him coming back or getting recalled by Barcelona. I think it would be the worst thing for him, because I think he's better continue his development here and becoming a first choice. But yeah, I like what he brings to the team. I like that positivity. Yes, he gives the ball away, but at the same time, I think he does a lot more good than bad in the team. And I'm just looking forward to seeing him develop just that little bit more. I hope that Celtic can keep him permanently, because I think there's a right good player there.
Henrik McLarsson describing him as a competent Burnaby, which is, I guess, a good way to put it.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
Yeah, he does have a wee bit of the Bernabes about him in terms of, if you watch him, he's kind of the way he gathers the ball and carries it. But I think, as much as I'm saying he gives the ball away from time to time, he's certainly a lot more secure than Burnaby. I still think the manager will go with Greg Taylor on Wednesday. Could be wrong, but I just think when the big games come around, Taylor comes in. I think, Valle probably plays against Hibs if that's the case. And I think you'll just continue to see that rotation over several positions. Centre back, I have a feeling trusty Carter Vickers on Wednesday night. And then I think maybe Carter Vickers sits out Hibs on Saturday, and you see Trusty and Scales. I think it's really promising and encouraging that we appear now to have 3 different centre back pairings that all seem relatively good. And in previous years, the idea of Cameron Carter Vickers missing a game or multiple games was this horrible idea. I'd still rather he's around, but I don't think there's the same fear anymore, because I think Trusty and Scales are 2 pretty good centre backs. So I'm pretty encouraged by that as well.
Yeah, me too. And that was the first game that Trusty didn't play since Bratislava, since coming off the bench against Slovan Bratislava. That is how long he's been in the team. Yes, he came on as a sub against Bratislava, but he started every game since. So he's so
played
reliable.
Every minute.
Every minute as well, yeah. So he deserved that bit of a break, but I think he'll be back in the team on Wednesday. I think the Celtic's best defence involves Austin Trusty nowadays, then that's no slight on Liam Scales, and the fact that he's managed to resurrect his Celtic career from where he was last season, at the start of last season, to now. You know, Stephen Welsh was getting a contract extension ahead of him. That was the way that the sort of hierarchy of the back line was: Carter Vickers, Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, Welsh, and then Liam Scales. So now Liam Scales is, you know, second, maybe third choice centre back. So the fact that he's there is a testament to how well he's done. And it's no slight that he's in and out of the team at the moment. That's just that Austin Trusty costs £6 million, and you would expect him to play games for that. Celtic don't sign £6 million defenders to sit on the bench. That doesn't make sense financially for Celtic in the way that they play and where they play as well. So I've got no issue with him coming in and out of the side. And I don't think he'll have too much of an issue either. He'll be happy with where he is at the moment. He'll get a lot of game time from now until the end of the season, just by, you know, if you look at Carter Vickers' injury history, the chances of him picking up an injury from now until the end of the season are quite high, because it's happened in every other season. He's been, apart from his debut season at Celtic, he's been in and out of the side with injuries. So he'll always have that, you know, that in the back of his head or the back of his mind, that Carter Vickers will pick up an injury and he will be in for games. It seems that Trusty doesn't pick up injuries, which is good so far, touch wood.
Don't say
he
that.
Can come in. I know, but at the moment it's looking really good with him. He's looking very consistent. I think it'll be Carter Vickers and Trusty, but, you know, likewise, I wouldn't complain too much if it was Scales in there after the performance he had on Saturday. I think he's been tremendous this season. He deserves a lot of credit for the job that he's done.
I think it's encouraging for me that Liam Scales comes back into the team on Saturday and plays so well. Like, it didn't really take him any time to get back up to speed. It was like he'd never been away. And, like, clearly Liam Scales is going to have a big part to play going forward. As you say, some sort of injury is inevitable and you know, all over the pitch at some point this season. And the fact that we've now got seemingly 3 reliable centre-backs, I think it's a great place to be. I can't ever remember Celtic having 3 properly reliable centre-backs. So it's very encouraging. Listen, everything is very encouraging at the moment. Pete talking about Adam Idah. Anyone still doubting Adam Idah? Yes, Pete. Come on, show them all, those who doubted Adam Idah. It was a fabulous goal. I need to stop saying the word fabulous. It was a brilliant goal, and I'm glad that he got the goal as well. His goal scoring record's really good this season. I was looking up earlier, certainly in the league, he scores every 75 minutes in the league this season. Last season, scored every 76 minutes in the league. So it's very similar. And he scored goals in Europe. He scored goals in the League Cup. So I think Adam Idah's doing absolutely fine. I think there's bits of his game that can improve. His kind of link-up play can improve. But I think the really encouraging thing for me with Idah is he's got everything you need to improve. Like, he's clearly got the pace, got the power. He's got the attitude. I think his attitude's fabulous. Saying that word again. Dear, oh dear. His attitude's excellent. And I think Brendan Rodgers really likes him. And I just think it's a kind of long-term game to an extent with Adam Idah. I think you're only going to see the best of him in future years, but that's not to say he can't make a big impact. And he is making a big impact. I don't know if you know exactly how many goals he's got this season. It's probably 8 or 9 already, and I'd say that's pretty
7 or
good.
8, yeah, I think it is.
He doesn't start too often. I think he's got 5 in the league. Was it 2 against Falkirk and 1 against Slovan? So would that be 8?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a really good goal record, but I think the system helps him. The fact that there's so many players scoring in this team. How many players are on 6-7 goals at the moment that you can count? You get Cal McGregor scoring from midfield. You have got Kyogo, Adam Idah up front. You've got Daisen Maeda. You have got Nicholas Kuhn. So the goals are spread out, and this is exactly what Brendan Rodgers wants. He says there's no point in a player, and he makes the Lee Griffiths example plenty of times. Yes, he scored 40 goals a season, but he wants all the goals to be spread out throughout the team, and that's what's happening. You've got the wingers scoring, which is a key component of a Brendan Rodgers team that maybe wasn't the case last season, apart from Palma in the first half of the season. You've now got goals all over the pitch, and that helps Idah. I think it helps him develop. But there isn't that much pressure on him to deliver with goals every time. He can sort of develop in the background. But I think you're seeing it come to the fore now, and he's such a confidence player. Like what I said within the first couple of minutes against Ross County, I knew it was going to be a good day for Celtic. Also knew it was going to be a good day for Adam Idah when I seen his first touch. First or second touch of the game. He's got the salmon ass about him. Whereas if you see him make a good touch in the opening couple of minutes or the opening few minutes, then he's going to have a good game because that confidence is there. He talked about it in his pre-match press conference. He's clearly a confidence player, and that confidence was certainly there on Saturday. It wasn't just his goal, but his touches, his overall play was good, and he's just a nuisance. Because what height is he? 6'2", 6'3", and he's not short. He's kind of got this low centre of gravity, and he's really quick when he's running and dribbling with the ball as well. So I'm excited to see what Idah can bring in the next few years. I think he's at the perfect place for his development. He's under the perfect manager for his development too, and he's got that security. The fact he's got a long-term deal too. The Celtic value him. They see the long-term benefits, and for the first time in his career, he doesn't need to worry about being out the team or going out on loan in January. He knows where his future is going to be for the next 4 or 5, maybe even beyond years, and I think that's great. I think he'll continue to flourish under Brendan Rodgers. I think there's already an argument on whether or not he should start on Wednesday, because I think it could be a game for him on Wednesday. That that physicality. Kyogo probably will start, but it's a great option to have.
I think Kyogo starts. I was just thinking here. Kyogo starts against Aberdeen. Idah will start against Hibs. Kyogo will start against Zagreb, and I think Kyogo starts the final. But Idah's obviously going to come off the bench and. In the games he doesn't start, so it's not as if just because he's not starting, Idah can write that one off. He's going to have a big part to play. We saw in the Scottish Cup final what he did off the bench. So yeah, it's great, and I think Aberdeen on Wednesday night is a really tasty match for us, and maybe the fact they're struggling a little bit, 2 points out of their last possible 9 in the league, maybe that's taken a little bit of the edge off the game slightly, but I still think there's I still think it's a really kind of appetising game for this Celtic team to go all the way up there. I'm assuming, despite their little slump, if you want to call it that, I'm assuming the stadium will still be full, sold out for the game. And what an opportunity to win, as you say, go 7 points clear with a game in hand. And yeah, Aberdeen are having a good season and a good side, but I think Celtic go up there and win potentially convincingly as well on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think reality's kind of caught up with Aberdeen. It's been such a great start for them, but they couldn't sustain it for the whole season. The numbers were telling us that after when I was reading and sort of like the match time on StatsBomb, their XG for and XG against. I know I'm getting quite statistical, but it was difficult to maintain that throughout the whole season, and I think that's beginning to show. They've not got the squad depth that is required to have a title push throughout the season. Celtic can just rotate. Yes, they're playing games every sort of 3-4 days, but they can rotate, and those players that are tired can come out of the team and come back in when Rodgers sees fit. Even, going back to the midfield, you've got players like Arne Engels, an £11 million player. You can then bring on Bernardo, who costs £3.5 million, but really he's a £6 or £7 million player already. But Celtic got him for a discount price. I think that's great business, by the way, from the club. The fact they only got him for £3.5 million. I think now, if Celtic were to theoretically sign him now, people wouldn't complain about spending £6-7 million on Bernardo, but they got him on a cut price. We'll see what happens with the sell-on clause further down the line. But for £3.5 million, you're getting value for money with Paulo Bernardo there. You've got Luke McCown that can come into the team, who I think is much more than a £1 million player. He definitely is now that he's playing for Celtic. I just think his overall effectiveness. And I was saying this at the game on Saturday to the people around me. It's so important that Celtic have a player that understands the geography of Scottish football as well. Because although you get Paulo Bernardo and Arne Engels, Bernardo's been there a year, he understands Scottish football. But having players like Engels that are just new to Scottish football, having somebody in there that's acclimatised to that, like Callum McGregor, can only help in those domestic games. He understands what it means to play in Scotland and what is required physically, and he showed that on Saturday. So I think he's done a great job. But yeah, the rotation is there for Celtic that maybe isn't there for Aberdeen, and the results have caught up with them. I just hope that Celtic can put on a bit of a show on Wednesday and really sort of lay down a marker for the rest of Scottish football that, right, Aberdeen, Rangers, you've had your fun, but it's now Celtic's title, basically. That's what I want on Wednesday, to really go out and put on a performance that really does underline how good Celtic have been this season. Because everybody's been talking about Aberdeen this season, but Celtic have been magnificent, and it's about time that Celtic get their flowers, and I think they will get that if the result goes their way on Wednesday. It'd be a truly tremendous start to the season if Celtic were to get a win on Wednesday. Like, I don't think they could do. They couldn't do much better apart from win against Aberdeen at home. But that was 10 minutes of madness. Out with 10 minutes of madness, they've been pretty much faultless in the league, and they deserve a lot of credit for that.
I just remember the game. I think it was Brendan Rodgers' second season, around about this time of the year, when we went up to Pittodrie, and there was some questions about the team. It was maybe we just had one of our tankings in the Champions League, potentially PSG or someone like that, and we went up to Pittodrie, and Aberdeen were going pretty well at the time, and we battered them and beat them 3-0. And I just wonder if something similar might happen on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to it anyway. Just seeing what else. Ultra Wide was saying Kyogo and Kuhn rested, ultra competitive midfield, ominous for Aberdeen. Seamus pointing out Luke McCowan was outstanding on Saturday. Great wee player for us. I agree. Something I was going to say, I see Dynamo Zagreb are struggling a bit at the moment as well. They've not won in 4 games, so that could be interesting next Tuesday as well. But no, we're ticking along. Ryan, anything else today on your mind?
I'm just thinking, it was another pretty good weekend for Celtic. I'm delighted that there's another game on Wednesday. These games come thick and fast. But when Celtic are playing well, as they did on Saturday, then you've got no problem with that whatsoever. I just think Wednesday is a great opportunity for Celtic to really put down a marker for the rest of the season. If they were to win that game and go 7 points clear of Aberdeen with a game in hand, then I think you'll see even more rotation with the league. I think you'll then see Europe as a bit of a priority. Well, it's already a priority, but even more so. You'll be able to see that rotation. You'll get to see more of Luke McCowan, which is no downgrade. It's just the way that the hierarchy of the midfield works at the moment. Having him start games, I don't think anybody would be complaining about that. Paulo Bernardo starting games. It would also take the pressure off of Arne Engels, I think, to develop, without that pressure of the league being on him as well. Just allow him to settle. He had a great start. I thought he was good. I thought he was decent when he came off the bench against Ross County. Yes, the game was over, but it allowed them just time to sort of refresh and do the simple stuff. I thought he did the basics quite well. Celtic are in such a good place at the moment. They just need to keep that going, get a win on Wednesday, and then they can really begin to focus on the cup final and Europe as well. A tremendous position, and I think it's actually been underplayed how good Celtic have been this season. I don't think enough's been made of the start. Maybe we've been talking about how poor Rangers have been in terms of their Jekyll and Hyde performances in Europe and then domestically. Been speaking about Aberdeen and their title challenge or supposed title challenge. I think Celtic deserve a bit of credit for how they've just maintained this level from August to November, start of December. I think they've been absolutely sublime, and they deserve that credit that will come their way if they get that result on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, I wouldn't be holding my breath for Celtic to get the credit we deserve. I've been waiting years and years for that, and it seems like people just expect us to go and win all these trophies. Certainly as fans, we know how difficult it is. Okay, that'll do us for today. Just before we go, another shout out for this offer we have going, everyone. 1 year of access for the Celtic Way for only £12, and a free Made by Frankie Brendan Rodgers print as part of that as well. So great value there. What's the website? celticway.co.uk/subscribe.
www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. You'll get all the terms and conditions there. Thank you to everybody that's done so far. If you haven't done so, please, if you are able to, of course, but please take advantage of this great offer. £12 for a full year's content. That'll be you sorted for the January transfer window, all the rest of the season, and the summer transfer window, going into next November, December. As I was saying last week, it's going to be very interesting to see where Celtic are in a year's time. The current trajectory is looking so high. I'm looking forward to seeing where they get to over these next 12 months or so. It's definitely a better feeling than it was this time last year, and Brendan Rodgers spoke about that, getting booed after a win against Ross County. Now they're beating teams 5-0 in the first half. you know, it's pretty good going for Brendan Rodgers. All that awkwardness of his return, I think he's evaporated, and everybody seems to be on the one boat, which is brilliant.
It is. Ryan, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for tuning in on this Monday. I hope you have a fine rest of your day, and I will catch up with you at this time tomorrow. Speak to you then.